The ancient stone tablet glowed under the scanning light as Kang Tai-min carefully brushed away centuries of dust. His hand shook slightly as he read the symbols carved deep into the dark rock. After 15 years of searching through ruins across 17 different star systems, he had found something that could change everything the galaxy believed about its history. Another myth tablet? Dr. Yoon Hairi asked from behind him. The council's chief xenobiologist stepped closer, her purple Velaran skin reflecting the scanner's blue light. Taemin, you need to stop chasing these stories. The council has more important work for you. Taemin did not look up from the tablet. This is not a myth, Harry. Look at these star charts. They match 15 other sites I have studied. All of them point to the same thing. Humans. Harry said with a tired sigh. These magical beings from a death world called Earth, who could supposedly travel between stars without technology we understand. Taemin, think about what you are saying. We have cataloged every species in the galaxy. There are 5 major civilizations, and that is all there has ever been. The young historian finally looked up at his colleague. His dark eyes burned with excitement. What if we are wrong? What if there was a 6th species, one so different from us that we cannot even imagine how they lived? Hairi walked to the window of the research station. Outside, the stars of the Nexus system sparkled in the darkness. This was the center of galactic civilization, where representatives from all 5 species worked together. The logical Valorans, like herself, managed science and exploration. The telepathic axioms handled communication and diplomacy. The hive-minded Kalari controlled manufacturing and construction. The energy-based Lumens provided power and transportation. The mechanical Syntheri maintained all technology. 5 species, Taemin. 5 species that have worked together for 3,000 years. If these humans existed, where are they now? Why have we never found any real proof? Taemin carefully photographed the tablet with his scanner. Maybe they left. Maybe they are hiding. Maybe we drove them away. Far from the civilized center of the galaxy, Captain Lee Dongwoo stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable. His ship was one of humanity's newest scout vessels, built for long-range reconnaissance missions into unknown space. For the past 6 months, he had been watching the movements of alien fleets along what humans called the contact line. Captain, called Lieutenant Kim Nari from her sensor station, I am detecting massive fleet movements in sectors 7 through 12. The aliens are expanding their territory again. Dongwoo studied the display showing thousands of alien ships moving in organized formations. The 5 species had formed some kind of alliance, and they were pushing deeper into space that had been empty for centuries. They did not know that this empty space was not really empty at all. How long before they reach our outer colonies? He asked. At their current speed, maybe 6 months, Nari replied. Should we send a warning to Colonial Command? The captain nodded slowly. 300 years ago, humanity had fought a terrible war against an ancient empire that had tried to enslave them. They had won, but the cost had been enormous. Entire worlds had been destroyed. Billions had died. After the war, humanity had decided to leave the inner galaxy and build new homes in the outer rim, far from other civilizations. Now it seemed that other civilizations were coming to them. Send the message, Dongwoo ordered. Tell Command that first contact may be coming sooner than we planned. Back on Nexus Prime, Taemin worked late into the night in his laboratory. The tablet he had found contained more information than any previous discovery. The stone was old, maybe 10,000 years old, but the writing was clear. It told a story about beings called humans who came from a world where everything tried to kill everything else. According to the tablet, these humans were different from any known species. They had no natural weapons like Kalari claws or axiom mental powers. They could not live in space like the Lumens or interface directly with machines like the Syntheri. They were not even very strong or fast compared to other species. But they had something else. They could adapt to anything. They could learn any skill. They could survive in places that would kill other beings. Most importantly, they never gave up, no matter how hopeless things seemed. The tablet described great wars where humans fought with simple kinetic weapons against enemies with advanced energy technology. It told of humans surviving in environments that should have been impossible for biological life. It spoke of human ships that could travel faster than any known vessel, using technology that worked on completely different principles. Taemin rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the time display. It was very late, but he could not stop reading. At the bottom of the tablet, written in smaller text, was something that made his blood run cold. When the galaxy bleeds, the children of Earth will return. The next morning, Tae-min presented his findings to the Galactic Archaeological Society. The meeting room was filled with scientists from all 5 species. Dr. Yoon Hairi sat in the front row, along with other department heads and council representatives. "The evidence is clear," Tae-min said, standing before the large display screen showing images of the tablet. "This civilization existed. They left records on dozens of worlds. They had technology we do not understand and capabilities we have never seen." "Even if these humans existed," interrupted Professor Cho Min-soo, a senior Valoran archaeologist, "they are obviously extinct. We have found no recent traces of them anywhere." "That is what worries me," Tae-min replied. "Every extinct civilization in our database fell shortly after making contact with beings that match human descriptions. What if they are not extinct? What if they are just hidden?" The room fell silent. Finally, Dr. Hairi stood up. "Tae-min, you are suggesting that there is a 6th major species out there, one that our combined fleets and sensors have never detected. Do you understand how impossible that sounds?" "Impossible or not," Tae-min said quietly, "the evidence is here, and according to these records, they are coming back." As the meeting ended in confused arguments, none of the assembled scientists noticed the small data transmission leaving Nexus Prime. In the outer rim, Captain Dong-woo received a coded message from an old friend who worked in galactic intelligence. The message was short but alarming. "They are starting to remember you exist. Time to decide what happens next." Dong-woo stared at the message for a long time. Humanity had hoped to remain hidden for at least another century. They were not ready for contact with the galactic civilizations. But ready or not, it seemed that contact was coming. He opened a communication channel to Colonial Command and began composing a message that would change the course of galactic history. The age of myths was ending. The age of truth was about to begin. The UES Olive Branch drifted silently through space near the border between human territory and the expanding alien civilizations. Commander Park Ji-hoon stood on the small bridge, watching the scanner displays that showed no signs of other ships in the area. His vessel was humanity's first attempt at peaceful contact with the galactic civilizations. "Sir," called Ensign Ryu Min-ho from the communication station, "we are receiving a transmission from an approaching vessel. They are requesting we identify ourselves." Ji-hoon straightened his uniform. "Put it on screen, Min-ho. Let us see who we are dealing with." The main display flickered to life, showing the image of a tall, purple-skinned being with large, dark eyes. The alien wore what appeared to be a military uniform covered in symbols that meant nothing to the humans. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Cho Min-soo of the Valoran patrol ship Wisdom. You are in restricted space. Identify yourself immediately or we will consider you hostile." Ji-hoon stepped forward. "Captain Cho, I am Commander Park Ji-hoon of the human vessel Olive Branch. We come in peace, seeking diplomatic contact with your government." The alien captain's eyes widened. Behind him, other aliens could be seen moving quickly around what looked like a ship's bridge. "Human? That is impossible. Humans are myths. Fantasy stories. I assure you, Captain, we are very real. We would like to arrange a meeting between our peoples to discuss peaceful coexistence." Captain Cho disappeared from the screen for several minutes. When he returned, his expression was confused and worried. "Commander Park, our sensors cannot properly detect your vessel. According to our readings, you should not be able to survive in space. Your ship shows no energy shielding, no AI systems, no gravitational compensators. How are you alive?" Dr. Kim Nari, the human xenobiologist, stepped beside Ji-hoon. "Captain Cho, our species developed differently than yours. We do not require the same technology to survive. Perhaps we could meet in person to explain?" 3 hours later, a small shuttle from the Valoran ship docked with the Olive Branch. Captain Cho emerged wearing a full environmental suit, followed by 2 other Valorans and what appeared to be a floating crystal that pulsed with blue light. "That is an axiom," Dr. Kim whispered to Ji-hoon, "the telepathic species. It is probably trying to read our minds." The meeting took place in the Olive Branch's small conference room. Captain Cho and his team sat on one side of the table, while Ji-hoon, Dr. Kim, and Engineer Lee Dong-woo represented humanity. "This is impossible," Captain Cho said, staring at the humans. "You are biological entities with no visible technological enhancements. You are breathing our ship's atmosphere without assistance. According to our medical scanners, your bodies should not be able to function in this gravitational field. Dr. Kim pulled out a data pad showing human biological information. Captain, humans evolved on a world with higher gravity than most inhabited planets. We adapted to survive in extremely hostile conditions. What seems impossible to you is normal for us. The axiom crystal pulsed brighter and projected a voice directly into everyone's minds. I cannot read their thoughts clearly. Their mental patterns are chaotic and shielded by something I do not understand. How do you resist telepathic contact? Engineer Lee spoke up. We did not know you were trying to read our minds. We do not have telepathic abilities ourselves. Maybe our brains just work differently. Captain Cho leaned forward. You said you come in peace. Where have you been hiding? Our sensor networks cover most of the galaxy. We should have detected your civilization long ago. We live in the Outer Rim, Ji-hoon explained. We prefer to keep to ourselves. We have been watching your expansion and decided it was time to make contact before our territories overlap. Watching us? The axiom's mental voice carried alarm. For how long? Several years, Ji-hoon admitted. We wanted to understand your intentions before revealing ourselves. Captain Cho stood up quickly. You have been spying on us? This is an act of aggression. No, Captain. We were being careful. Surely you can understand the need for caution when meeting a new species. Before Captain Cho could respond, alarms began ringing throughout both ships. Sir, called Minho from the bridge, multiple vessels are dropping out of hyperspace. It looks like a fleet. On the main screen, dozens of alien ships appeared around the small meeting area. They were larger and more heavily armed than Captain Cho's patrol vessel. This is Admiral Huang Su-jin of the Kalari Collective. A harsh voice announced over the communication system. Unknown vessels will surrender immediately for inspection and quarantine. Any resistance will be met with force. Captain Cho looked apologetic. Commander Park, I had to report this contact to my superiors. They must have sent the Kalari to investigate. Ji-hoon turned to his crew. Dr. Kim, get back to the bridge. Lee, prepare for emergency departure. Captain Cho, I suggest you return to your ship. You cannot escape, Captain Cho said. The Kalari have surrounded you with 50 ships. Surrender and you will be treated fairly. Captain, with respect, we did not come here to be captured. We came to talk. The Kalari Admiral's voice filled the room again. Alien vessel, you have 10 seconds to lower your shields and prepare to be boarded. Any attempt to flee will result in your destruction. Ji-hoon spoke calmly into his communicator. All stations, this is the captain. Execute Protocol 7 immediately. Captain Cho watched in amazement as the humans quickly but calmly prepared for something. What is Protocol 7? It means we are leaving, Dr. Kim said as she headed for the bridge. Impossible. No ship can escape a Kalari battle formation. The countdown from the Kalari fleet reached 0. Energy weapons fired at the space where the olive branch had been just moments before. But the human ship was gone. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply gone from all sensors. Captain Cho rushed back to his ship and ran to the bridge. Where did they go? How did they disappear? His sensor officer, a young Velaran named Yoon Hae-ri, stared at her displays in confusion. Sir, they were here 1 second and gone the next. No hyperspace signature, no energy discharge, no debris. They just vanished. Admiral Huang's angry voice filled the communication channels. Captain Cho, explain what happened here immediately. Admiral, I am not sure I can explain it. The humans use technology we do not understand. They escaped from a full battle formation without a trace. Humans? The Admiral's voice carried disbelief. You are telling me that mythical creatures outsmarted 50 Kalari warships? Far from the meeting site, the olive branch dropped out of its stealth mode near a human listening post. Ji-hoon sat in his command chair, reviewing the recordings of the meeting. Sir, Dr. Kim said from her station, what do we report to Colonial Command? Ji-hoon was quiet for a long moment. Tell them that first contact did not go as planned. The galactic civilizations are aggressive and paranoid. They view any unknown technology as a threat. Do you think they will try to find us? Dr. Kim, they just mobilized 50 warships to capture one small diplomatic vessel. Yes, I think they will try to find us. And when they do, I do not think they will be interested in peaceful coexistence. Engineer Lee looked up from his console. Captain, I monitored their communications during the encounter. They are already calling us a potential invasion force. They think we are using advanced cloaking technology to hide a large military fleet. Are we? Dr. Kim asked. Ji-hoon smiled grimly. Not yet. But after today we might need to be. The human ship turned toward home, carrying news that would change everything. Behind them, 50 alien warships searched empty space for any trace of the vessel that had vanished before their eyes. The age of myths was over. The age of suspicion had begun. In the Kalari fleet, Admiral Huang stared at the tactical display showing nothing but empty space. "Prepare a full report for the Council. Tell them we have confirmed the existence of an unknown species with advanced stealth capabilities. Recommend immediate military response." "Sir," asked his tactical officer, "what if they really did come in peace?" Admiral Huang turned away from the display. "Officer, in my experience, only two types of species develop perfect stealth technology. Those who are planning to attack, and those who are planning to disappear forever. Either way, they are now our problem." Kang Tae-min worked frantically in his laboratory on Nexus Prime, surrounded by data displays showing historical patterns that made his stomach turn cold. Dr. Shin Bo-ra and Professor Lim Jae-sung stood beside him, staring at the evidence they had uncovered over the past week. "Show me the timeline again," Dr. Shin said, her voice tight with worry. Tae-min pointed to the holographic display floating above the table. "Every extinct civilization in our historical database follows the same pattern. First, they report contact with mysterious beings matching human descriptions. Then, within 50 to 100 years, they completely disappear from the galactic record." Professor Lim stepped closer to examine the data. The Corvani Empire gone 3,000 years ago. The Zentari Federation vanished 2,000 years ago. The Macron Republic disappeared 1,500 years ago. All of them were advanced civilizations with powerful military forces. And all of them, Tae-min added grimly, left records describing enemies who fought with primitive kinetic weapons against their energy-based technology. Enemies who never surrendered, never retreated, and never stopped coming. Dr. Shin pulled up another display. "But Tae-min, correlation is not causation. Maybe these civilizations fell for other reasons. Internal wars, resource depletion, natural disasters." "Then explain this," Tae-min said, highlighting specific entries in the database. "Every one of these civilizations described the same thing before they vanished. Beings from a death world who adapted to any environment. Creatures who could survive injuries that would kill anyone else. Warriors who treated impossible odds as merely challenging." On the human colony world of New Busan, Governor Yu Hyo-jin read the urgent report from Captain Dong-woo with growing alarm. The conference room was filled with colonial administrators, military officers, and civilian leaders, all waiting to hear what the government's response would be to the failed first contact mission. "Ladies and gentlemen," Governor Yu began, "the situation is clear. The galactic civilizations view us as a threat. Intelligence reports indicate they are mobilizing a massive fleet to deal with what they call the human problem." Admiral Bae Kyung-ho, commander of the Colonial Defense Force, stood up. "Governor, our scouts report over 10,000 alien ships gathering in staging areas along the contact line. They have ships from all 5 species working together. This is not a patrol or an investigation. This is an invasion fleet. What are our defensive capabilities?" asked Dr. Park Yoon-soo, the colony's chief scientist. Admiral Bae activated a holographic display showing human space. "We have 1,200 ships spread across 47 systems. Our technology is different from theirs. We use railguns instead of energy weapons, fusion drives instead of exotic matter propulsion, solid armor instead of energy shields." "Are we outgunned?" Governor Yu asked. "In terms of raw firepower, yes, but their technology relies on complexity and exotic physics. Ours focuses on reliability and redundancy. Our ships are harder to disable because they use simpler systems." Commander Jang Ye-jin, a human intelligence officer, had spent the last month infiltrating Council communication networks. She sat in a hidden listening post deep in neutral space, monitoring alien military communications with growing amazement. "This is incredible," she muttered to herself as she listened to intercepted Kalari tactical discussions. "They have never fought a total war." The more she listened, the more she understood how different the galactic civilizations were from humanity. Their conflicts were limited affairs focused on territorial disputes and resource allocation. They had rules for warfare. They had protocols for surrender. They had concepts of acceptable losses. They had no understanding of a species that would fight to extinction rather than submit. Commander Jang activated her encrypted communication system and sent an urgent, Message to Colonial Command. Enemy psychology assessment complete. They expect limited conflict with negotiated resolution. They have no experience with total war doctrine. Recommend exploitation of this weakness. Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council held an emergency session to discuss the human threat. Representatives from all 5 species filled the Great Chamber, their voices raised in heated debate. The evidence is clear, declared Supreme Admiral Co. Wu Jin, the Axiom representative. These humans possess stealth technology that makes them invisible to our sensors. They could have fleets hiding anywhere in the galaxy. The Valorans agree, added Dr. Yoon Hae-ri, now serving as a military advisor. Our encounter with their diplomatic vessel showed technology we cannot understand or counter. They escaped from 50 Kalari warships without difficulty. The Kalari representative, a massive insectoid creature with multiple arms, clicked its mandibles in agitation. The hive mind has analyzed their behavior patterns. They show no respect for proper military protocol. They refuse to follow established rules of engagement. What do the lumens recommend? Asked the council moderator. The energy being that represented the lumen species pulsed with orange light as it spoke. The light forms detect danger in these creatures. They emit electromagnetic signatures unlike any known biological life. They may not be natural beings. The Syntheri concur, added the mechanical representative. Analysis of their vessel's construction shows technology that should not work according to established physical laws. They use no artificial intelligence, yet their computers process data faster than our networks. Supreme Admiral SCO stood up, his telepathic voice reaching every mind in the chamber. The Council's decision is unanimous. These humans represent an existential threat to galactic civilization. They must be eliminated before they can establish a foothold in civilized space. On New Busan, Admiral Bay received the intelligence reports from Commander Zhang with mixed feelings. Governor, we have good news and bad news. The good news is that the aliens have no experience with the kind of warfare we are prepared to fight. The bad news is that they are so terrified of us that they will not accept any outcome except our complete destruction. Governor Yu stared out the window at the peaceful colonial city below. Admiral, we came to the Outer Rim to escape war. We built these colonies to give our children a chance to live in peace. Now you are telling me that war has followed us here. Yes, Governor. But this time, we are not fighting to defend an empire or protect resources. We are fighting for the right to exist. Dr. Park Yoon-soo activated a secure communication link to other human colonies. All stations, this is New Busan Central Command. Execute Protocol Black. Repeat. Execute Protocol Black immediately. Across human space, the message was received and understood. Protocol Black was humanity's contingency plan for exactly this situation. It called for the immediate conversion of civilian infrastructure to military production, the activation of reserve personnel, and the implementation of total war measures. On the mining world of New Seoul, massive ore processing facilities began producing armor plating and railgun ammunition. On the agricultural world of New Incheon, food production was redirected to support military logistics. On the research station orbiting New Daegu, scientists began working around the clock to develop new weapons and defensive systems. But the most important part of Protocol Black was psychological. Humanity had lived with the knowledge that they might someday have to fight for their survival again. Unlike the galactic civilizations, humans understood that some wars could only end with the complete defeat of one side or the other. Commander Park Ji-hoon, now promoted to captain after his first contact mission, stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned destroyer UES Defiant. His ship was one of 50 vessels assigned to the advanced warning network along the contact line. Sir, called his sensor operator, we are detecting massive hyperspace signatures approaching from Council space. It looks like the invasion fleet is beginning to move. Captain Park looked at the tactical display showing thousands of enemy ships advancing toward human territory. Signal all stations. Tell them the war is beginning, and send a message to Colonial Command. What message, sir? Captain Park was quiet for a moment, thinking about the peaceful diplomatic mission that had started this conflict. Tell them that we tried to talk. Now we fight. Light years away, Supreme Admiral Co stood on the bridge of the Council's flagship, a massive Axiom dreadnought called the Unity. Around him, the largest military fleet in galactic history, prepared for what they believed would be a quick, decisive campaign against a primitive enemy. Admiral, reported his tactical officer, Long-range scouts report no sign of human fleet formations. They appear to be hiding behind their stealth technology. It does not matter, Admiral Seo replied, his telepathic voice calm and confident. We will destroy their worlds one by one until they surrender or are extinct. This threat to galactic peace ends today. Neither side fully understood what they were about to unleash. The galactic civilizations expected a limited conflict against an inferior enemy. Humanity prepared for a war of survival that would determine whether their species lived or died. The age of peace was ending. The age of fire was about to begin. The first major battle between humans and the Galactic Council took place at Terminus Station, a massive trading post that marked the boundary between civilized space and the unknown rim. Captain No Jungwoo guided his destroyer, the UES Tenacious, toward the station with orders to evacuate any civilian personnel before the Council fleet arrived. Sir, called Lieutenant Ryu Min-ho from the tactical station, we are too late. Council ships are already in position around the station. I count 50 vessels, including heavy cruisers and at least one dreadnought. Captain No studied the display showing the enemy formation. His single destroyer was outnumbered 50-1, but his orders were clear. Signal the station. Tell them we are here to assist with evacuation. Captain, the station commander replied over the communication system. This is Manager Seo Woo-jin. We have 3,000 civilians aboard this station. The Council fleet arrived an hour ago and demanded we surrender for protective custody. We refused. Manager Seo, this is Captain No. Prepare your people for emergency evacuation. We will buy you as much time as we can. Admiral Moon Soo-young of the Axiom Forces watched the human ship approach through the sensors of her flagship. Such a small vessel, she murmured to her tactical officer. 50 ships against 1. This will be over quickly. Admiral, the officer replied. Should we demand their surrender? No, the Council wants these humans eliminated, not captured. Besides, they have already proven they will not surrender willingly. Admiral Moon activated her telepathic abilities and reached out toward the human ship, expecting to overwhelm the crew's minds with psychic force. Instead, she encountered something she had never experienced before. Human consciousness was unlike anything in the galactic database. Instead of the ordered, logical thought patterns of Valorans or the collective harmony of Kalari minds, human thoughts were chaotic, creative, and somehow protected by what could only be described as pure stubbornness. Impossible, Admiral Moon whispered, pulling back from the mental contact. Their minds resist telepathic influence. How can biological beings shield their thoughts without technology? On the Tenacious, Captain No felt a strange pressure in his head for a moment, then nothing. Did anyone else feel that? He asked his bridge crew. Feel what, sir? Lieutenant Ryu replied. Never mind. All stations prepare for combat. They are probably going to try to disable us first. The battle began when the Council fleet opened fire with coordinated energy weapon strikes designed to overwhelm the human ship's defenses. Bright beams of plasma and particle energy converged on the Tenacious from multiple directions. The crew watched in amazement as the beams struck their ship's armor and simply dispersed across the hull surface. The Tenacious shook from the impacts but suffered no significant damage. Sir, reported Chief Engineer Yang Yunji from the engine room. Our armor is absorbing the energy weapons like they are flashlights. These aliens have never faced solid armor before. Captain No smiled grimly. Their mistake. All batteries return fire. Target the lead cruiser. The Tenacious's railguns fired in sequence, sending tungsten slugs accelerating to nearly 10% of light speed toward the enemy formation. The kinetic projectiles passed through the aliens' energy shields as if they did not exist, and struck the lead Kalari cruiser with devastating force. The impact tore through the alien ship's hull, causing massive internal explosions. Within seconds, the cruiser was drifting powerless, its crew struggling to contain catastrophic damage. Admiral Moon stared at her tactical display in shock. How is that possible? They penetrated our shields with primitive projectile weapons. Her tactical officer checked the sensor readings 3 times before responding. Admiral, their weapons appear to be simple kinetic impactors. Our shields are designed to deflect energy attacks, not solid objects moving at relativistic speeds. One ship, Admiral Moon said with growing anger. One ship just disabled one of our heavy cruisers. All vessels concentrate fire on the human destroyer. Destroy it immediately. But the Tenacious did not behave like any ship in the Council's tactical database. Instead of retreating or trying to escape, Captain No ordered a direct charge into the center of the enemy formation. "Sir," Lieutenant Ryu called out, "we are heading straight into their battle line. They will surround us. That is the idea, Minho. Get us close enough to do some real damage." Lieutenant Ryu understood immediately. The closer they got to the enemy ships, the more difficult it would be for the aliens to coordinate their fire without hitting each other. It was a tactic that required either supreme confidence or complete insanity. The Tenacious raced through the Council formation, its railguns firing continuously at point-blank range. Each shot crippled or destroyed an enemy vessel. But the human ship was taking damage as well. Energy weapon hits were overloading circuits and starting fires throughout the hull. "Captain," Chief Yang reported, "we have lost main power to weapons. I need 10 minutes to reroute through backup systems." "We do not have 10 minutes, Captain No replied, looking at the tactical display showing enemy ships closing in from all sides. Lieutenant Ryu looked up from his station with a wild expression. "Sir, what if we use the mining charges?" "Mining charges? We have 20 industrial mining charges in Cargo Bay too. If I can rig them as proximity mines and detonate them when the aliens get close enough." Captain No nodded. "Do it. Chief Yang, assist Lieutenant Ryu with the modifications." For the next 5 minutes, the crew of the Tenacious worked frantically to convert their industrial equipment into weapons. When 3 Council ships moved in to finish off what they thought was a disabled enemy, they found themselves facing improvised explosives that detonated at point-blank range. The mining charges, designed to break apart asteroids, proved equally effective against spacecraft. 2 of the attacking ships were completely destroyed, while the third limped away with massive hull damage. Admiral Moon watched the tactical display with growing disbelief. They just turned mining equipment into weapons during active combat. "How is that possible?" "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we are receiving damage reports from across the fleet. The humans have disabled or destroyed 12 of our ships." 12 ships? Against 1 destroyer? "Yes, Admiral. And they are still fighting. But the Tenacious was finally running out of options. With main weapons offline and hull breaches throughout the ship, Captain No knew they could not continue much longer. "All hands," he announced over the ship's communication system. "Prepare for boarding action. If they want to take this ship, they will have to do it room by room." The end came when a Kalari assault team finally breached the Tenacious's hull and began fighting their way toward the bridge. But instead of encountering a demoralized crew ready to surrender, they found human sailors who continued fighting with personal weapons even when their ship was clearly doomed. Chief Yang led the defense of the engine room, using tools and spare parts as weapons when her ammunition ran out. Lieutenant Ryu held the bridge until the very last moment, transmitting tactical data about enemy ship weaknesses to other human forces, even as alien soldiers broke down the armored doors. Captain No was the last human alive on the ship. When the Kalari soldiers finally reached him, he was still trying to overload the reactor to take as many enemy ships with him as possible. "Why do you not surrender?" the Kalari commander asked through a translation device. "Your ship is destroyed. Your crew is dead. You have lost." Captain No looked up at the alien warrior with blood running down his face. "Because we are human. We do not surrender." The reactor overload succeeded just as Captain No died. The explosion of the Tenacious destroyed 2 more Council ships and damaged several others. Admiral Moon stared at the expanding debris field where the human destroyer had been. 15 ships, she said quietly. 1 human destroyer disabled or destroyed 15 of our ships. "Admiral," her tactical officer reported, "we are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures approaching. More human ships are arriving." On the main screen, 20 human destroyers dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They had used the Tenacious's sacrifice to position themselves for a devastating surprise attack on the scattered Council. Fleet at Captain Im Haiwan of the lead. Human ship opened a communication channel to the alien fleet. "Council vessels, this is Captain Im of the Colonial Defense Force. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from this system, or we will consider you hostile." Admiral Moon looked at her tactical display. Her fleet still outnumbered the humans, but after seeing what 1 human ship could do, she was no longer confident of victory. "All ships," she ordered, "withdraw to safe distance. Signal the Council that we need reinforcements." As the Council fleet retreated, Captain Im studied the debris field where the Tenacious had made its final stand. Communications. Send a message to Colonial Command. Tell them the aliens now know what they are dealing with. And tell them that Captain No and his crew bought us the time we needed. The first battle was over, but both sides knew it was only the beginning. The Council had learned that humans would fight to the death rather than surrender. Humanity had learned that their enemies would not be satisfied with anything less than total victory. The war for survival had begun in earnest. The war between humanity and the Galactic Council escalated beyond anything either side had expected. Fleet Admiral Ko Jin-woo stood in the command center of the human battleship UES Indomitable, studying tactical displays that showed the scope of the conflict spreading across dozens of star systems. "Admiral," reported Captain An Tae-ho, "our deep strike forces have successfully hit supply depots in the Nexus and Kalari home systems. Enemy response time to our attacks has increased by 40%. Admiral Ko nodded approvingly. "Good. Continue the pressure. How are our defensive lines holding?" "Sir, that is where the situation becomes complicated. The Council forces have adapted faster than we expected. They are learning to counter our kinetic weapons by using overlapping shield frequencies." The human strategy had surprised the Council from the beginning. Instead of defending their colonies in static battles, humanity had abandoned territory and struck deep into Council space. Human fleets appeared suddenly at critical infrastructure points, destroyed their targets, and vanished before enemy reinforcements could arrive. On Nexus Prime, Kang Tae-min worked frantically with his research team to understand what they were fighting. Dr. Song Mi-young, a cultural anthropologist who had joined the team, made discoveries that terrified the Council leadership. "Tae-min," she said, pointing to data scrolling across her display. "Look at this. I have been analyzing the cultural patterns from the ancient human ruins. These beings did not just evolve on a harsh world. They evolved on what they call a death world." "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Shin Bora. Dr. Song pulled up biological data from the ancient records. Earth was a planet where apex predators competed with other apex predators for millions of years. Everything on that world evolved to kill everything else. Humans are the survivors of that environment. Tae-min stared at the information with growing horror. "You are saying they are natural-born killers?" "No, that is not accurate. They are natural-born survivors. There is a difference. They do not kill for pleasure or dominance. They kill when they believe their survival is threatened, and right now, they believe we are trying to make their species extinct." Meanwhile, in the Outer Rim, Captain Park Sora led human ground forces in what the aliens were learning to call impossible warfare. Her Marines had been deployed to the world of New Mokpo when a Kalari occupation force landed with overwhelming numerical superiority. "Colonel Park," called Sergeant Kim Hyun-woo over the radio. "The alien commander is demanding we surrender. He says resistance is pointless against their superior numbers." Colonel Park checked her tactical display. 3,000 Kalari soldiers against her 200 Marines. By any reasonable calculation, the humans should surrender immediately. "Sergeant, send a reply to the alien commander. Tell him that humans do not surrender. Then begin Operation Nightmare." Operation Nightmare was humanity's doctrine for fighting occupation forces. Instead of trying to defeat the enemy in direct combat, human forces made occupied worlds uninhabitable for the occupiers. Supply convoys were destroyed. Communication networks were sabotaged. Enemy soldiers faced constant harassment from an enemy they could never quite locate. But the psychological warfare was even more effective than the physical attacks. The Kalari had never faced an enemy that refused to follow established rules of engagement. Human soldiers appeared and disappeared like ghosts. They struck at night and vanished before dawn. They turned the aliens' own equipment against them. Within 2 weeks, the Kalari commander was requesting immediate evacuation. His forces were suffering casualties from attacks that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. His soldiers were afraid to leave their fortified positions. The world they had captured had become a nightmare that consumed resources without providing any strategic value. In space, the war was evolving in equally unexpected ways. Captain Choi Byung-hoon commanded a human cruiser squadron that had been tasked with preventing Council forces from reinforcing their forward positions. His solution was something the aliens had never encountered before. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "the enemy convoy is protected by 20 escort vessels. Standard doctrine would be to avoid engagement. Captain Choi studied the enemy formation. Lieutenant, what happens if we destroy the convoy but leave the escorts intact? Sir, the escorts would be stranded without supplies or support. They would have to withdraw or face starvation. Exactly. But what if we destroy the escorts and leave the convoy intact? The tactical officer thought for a moment. The convoy would be undefended, but they would still have supplies. They might try to reach their destination. Wrong, Lieutenant. If we destroy the escorts, the convoy crews will panic and try to escape. Ships fleeing in random directions are much easier to hunt down than ships in defensive formation. Captain Choi's strategy worked perfectly. The human squadron destroyed the escort vessels first, causing the convoy ships to scatter in terror. Without military protection, the civilian crews surrendered immediately rather than face destruction. But the psychological impact was more important than the tactical victory. Council convoy crews began refusing assignments to areas where human forces operated. The mere possibility of encountering human raiders was enough to disrupt enemy logistics across multiple sectors. The Council's response was to implement what they called protective measures for their civilian populations. Admiral Huang Sujin of the Kolari Collective announced that any world that harbored human forces would be subjected to orbital bombardment. The first test of this policy came when human raiders struck a supply depot on the Valoran world of Prima. Instead of pursuing the attackers, Admiral Huang ordered the bombardment of the entire planet. Sir, his tactical officer protested, there are millions of our own civilians on that world. The humans used our civilians as shields, Admiral Huang replied coldly. If we allow this tactic to succeed, they will use it everywhere. Sometimes victory requires terrible choices. The bombardment of Prima shocked both sides. The Council had just destroyed one of their own worlds to deny it to human forces. But the human response was even more shocking. Admiral Ko received reports of the Prima bombardment while commanding a fleet action near the Axiom home system. His response was immediate and decisive. All ships, he broadcast on an open channel that he knew the aliens would intercept, implement Protocol Omega immediately. If they want to play by those rules, we will show them what total war really means. Protocol Omega was humanity's most extreme contingency plan. It called for the systematic destruction of any infrastructure that might benefit the enemy, including human colonies that could not be defended. The first world to be sacrificed was New Jeju, a human agricultural colony that was about to be overrun by Council forces. Instead of allowing the aliens to capture the planet's food production facilities, the human defenders destroyed everything of value and evacuated the population. When Council forces arrived, they found a barren world with poisoned soil and destroyed infrastructure. The cost of occupying and rebuilding the planet would exceed any possible benefit. But Protocol Omega went beyond just denying resources to the enemy. Human forces began targeting civilian infrastructure throughout Council space. Power stations, communication networks, transportation hubs, anything that supported the enemy war effort became a legitimate target. Ambassador Oh Young-mi, humanity's senior diplomat, finally received permission to meet with Council representatives under a temporary ceasefire. The meeting took place on a neutral space station operated by an independent species that wanted no part of the war. Ambassador Oh, said Supreme Admiral Seo Woo-jin, representing the Council, this conflict has escalated beyond all reason. Surely we can find some peaceful resolution? Ambassador Oh looked at the alien diplomat with tired eyes. Admiral, 3 months ago, my government sent a peaceful delegation to establish diplomatic relations. Your response was to mobilize 10,000 warships. What kind of peaceful resolution did you have in mind? We propose that humans accept relocation to designated reservation worlds under Council supervision. You would be allowed to maintain your culture and limited self-government. In other words, you want us to surrender and accept imprisonment. Ambassador, be reasonable. Your species is outnumbered 1,000 to 1. You cannot win this war. Ambassador O stood up slowly. Admiral, let me explain something about humans that your intelligence services have obviously missed. We do not fight wars to win. We fight wars to survive, and we will continue fighting until either you are defeated or we are extinct. That is insane. That is human. The meeting ended without agreement. As Ambassador O prepared to return to human space, she delivered one final message to the Council representative. Admiral, you awakened something that was content to remain hidden in the outer rim. Every day this war continues, We become more like what you feared we were in the first place. You wanted to see the monsters from the death world? Congratulations. You are about to meet them. The ceasefire ended 12 hours later when human forces struck 3 council worlds simultaneously. But these were not the precise military strikes of earlier in the war. These were the tactics of a species that had decided survival required the complete destruction of anyone who threatened them. The council chamber was the most beautiful place in the known galaxy. It floated in space between 3 stars. Crystal walls showed the endless darkness outside. Inside, representatives from 47 different species sat in their special chairs. Each chair was made for their unique body shape. Today they were meeting to discuss a problem. The problem was humans. Ambassador Chen sat in the human chair. She was a small woman with gray hair and tired eyes. She had been talking for 3 hours. Nobody was listening anymore. The Velcrin Emperor stood up. He was tall, with blue skin and 4 arms. His species had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. He looked at Ambassador Chen like she was a bug. "Ambassador Chen," he said. His voice was cold. "We have heard enough. Humans have taken 12 colony worlds in regulated space. This is not acceptable. You will return those worlds. You will join the council as junior members, or we will make you." Chen stood up slowly. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear. She was angry. "Regulated space?" she said. "Those worlds were empty. No one lived there. We found them. We built homes there. We raised children there." The Emperor waved one hand. The other 3 hands stayed folded. It was a gesture of dismissal. "Those worlds were reserved," he said, "for future use. The council decides who can settle where. You did not ask permission. You are newcomers. You must follow the rules." Chen looked around the chamber. 47 species. Not one looked friendly. They all thought the same thing. Humans were young. Humans were weak. Humans would obey. "Let me tell you about human history," Chen said quietly. "My species has fought wars for thousands of years. We fought over food. We fought over land. We fought over ideas. We nearly destroyed ourselves many times." The Emperor laughed. "It sounded like breaking glass. That is why you need us," he said, "to civilize you. We have rules for war. No attacking civilians. No destroying infrastructure. When casualties reach 15%, the losing side surrenders. Everyone goes home. Very simple. Very civilized." Chen smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We learned different lessons from our wars," she said. "We learned that sometimes surrender is worse than death. We learned that when someone threatens your home, you fight with everything you have. We learned that if you cannot win, you make sure the enemy cannot win either." The council representatives looked at each other. They did not understand. The Emperor made a gesture. His chief military advisor came forward. She was Velcrin too, wearing a uniform covered in medals. "We will send a fleet to your colony of New Perth," the advisor said. "It is your newest settlement. Only 50,000 people live there. They will surrender. You will understand that resistance is useless." Chen closed her eyes for a moment. She thought about New Perth, beautiful green fields, children playing in the streets. Her niece lived there. "If you attack New Perth," she said, "you will regret it." The Emperor laughed again. "Is that a threat? Your entire species has maybe 200 warships. We have 10,000. This will be over quickly." Chen picked up her documents. She walked toward the door. "I need to send a message," she said, "to New Perth." 3 days later, the Velcrin fleet arrived at New Perth. 300 ships, enough to conquer 20 worlds. Admiral Korvax commanded the fleet. He was confident. He had fought in 12 wars. His species had never lost. As they approached the planet, sensors showed something strange. The cities were empty. No lights, no heat signatures, no people. "They evacuated?" Korvax said. "Good, makes our job easier. Land the troops. Take the infrastructure intact. We can sell it." His communication officer raised one hand. "Admiral, we are receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Put it on screen," Korvax said. A human face appeared. A young man, maybe 25 years old. He wore civilian clothes. Behind him they could see what looked like a bunker. "I am Michael Chen," the man said. "Governor of New Perth. You have come to take our world. I have a message for you." He held up a small device. It had a red button. "We spent the last 3 days preparing," Michael said. "Every building in every city has explosives. Every mine, every factory, every farm. We buried nuclear devices in the tectonic fault lines. We poisoned the water. We burned the fields. We destroyed everything of value. Admiral Korvac stared at the screen. You are bluffing, he said. You would not destroy your own world. Michael smiled. It was the same smile Ambassador Chen had used. This is not our world anymore, he said. You want it so badly? You can have it. All the broken pieces. He pressed the button. The planet exploded, not all at once. First, the nuclear devices in the fault lines detonated. The ground split open. Lava erupted. Then the cities exploded. Thousands of charges going off in sequence. The atmosphere caught fire. The Velkrin fleet was too close. Debris hit the ships like bullets, metal fragments traveling at incredible speed. 100 ships died in the first minute. Another 50 in the second. Admiral Korvac watched his fleet die. His ship shook from impacts. Alarms screamed. Crew members shouted. He could not speak. Could not think. These were not rational beings. They were monsters. What species destroys their own world? His ship survived. Barely. A third of his fleet was gone. The rest were damaged. And below, where a green world had been, there was only fire and ash. A message came from Earth. It was broadcast to every species in the Council. Ambassador Chen spoke. This is the human reply to war, she said. Her voice was cold and empty. You want our worlds? Come and take them. Come and take the ashes. Come and take the poison. Come and take the radioactive dust. We will give you nothing but ruins. We will give you nothing but death, she paused. We do not fight wars to win territory, she said. We fight wars to teach lessons. And our lesson is simple. Leave us alone, or we will burn everything. In the council chamber, no one spoke. They had started a war. They thought it would be easy. They thought wrong. The war had just begun, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to fight humans. The human reply to war, burn everything. The news from New Perth spread across the galaxy in hours. Every species heard the same story. Humans had destroyed their own world rather than surrender it. The images were terrifying. A beautiful green planet turned into a ball of fire and ash. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. The Emperor of the Velkrin stood before them. His forearms were shaking with rage. They are insane, he shouted. They killed their own people. They destroyed everything. What kind of monsters do this? Ambassador Chen sat in her chair. She looked tired. She had not slept in 3 days. No one died, she said quietly. We evacuated everyone. 50,000 people. All safe, all alive. We only destroyed buildings and land. The Emperor turned to face her. His face was dark with anger. You destroyed an entire planet. The resources, the infrastructure. It would have taken us decades to build all that. Chen stood up. Her voice was calm but hard. Yes, she said. That is the point. You came to steal what we built. We made sure there was nothing left to steal. You want to conquer us? Fine, but you will gain nothing. Every world you take will cost you more than it is worth. A delegate from the Thraxian species stood up. She was small and covered in purple fur. Her species believed in peace. Surely we can find a peaceful solution, she said. More violence will only lead to more suffering. Chen looked at her sadly. I wish that were true, Chen said. But your council demanded our surrender. You sent warships to our world. You gave us no choice but to fight. The Emperor made a gesture of dismissal. Then we will declare full war, he said. We will take all 12 of your colonies. We will blockade Earth. You will learn that defiance has consequences. Chen nodded slowly. Very well, she said. But remember this moment. Remember that you chose this. When you see what happens next, remember that we gave you every chance to stop. She walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the council began planning their war. On Earth, in a secret military facility deep underground, Admiral Sarah Okonkwo stood before a room full of officers. She was a tall woman with dark skin and gray hair. She had served in the military for 40 years. She had seen many wars. New Perth was just the beginning, she said. Her voice was strong and clear. The council thinks we are weak. They think we will break. They are wrong. She pressed a button. A hologram appeared in the center of the room. It showed human space. 12 colony worlds marked in blue. Velkrin space in red. Hundreds of red worlds. This is Doctrine Zero Sum, she said. It is our new military strategy. The principle is simple. If we cannot win, no one wins. If we cannot have our worlds, no one gets anything. A young captain raised her hand. Admiral, are you saying we should destroy all our colonies? Okonkwo nodded. Yes, every colony the enemy approaches will be evacuated and destroyed. But that is not all. We will also destroy their worlds. We will poison their water. We will burn their forests. We will contaminate their soil. They want total war. We will give them total destruction. The room was silent. Officers looked at each other with shocked expressions. Another officer spoke. He was older with many medals on his uniform. Admiral, with respect, this is madness. We are talking about destroying entire worlds, billions of civilians. Okonkwo turned to face him. Her expression was hard. We will evacuate civilians when possible, she said. We are not murderers. But if they refuse to evacuate, that is their choice. Our history has taught us one lesson. When someone tries to destroy you, you must be willing to destroy everything to survive. Sherman understood this. Truman understood this. Now we must understand it. She looked around the room. The enemy thinks war is a game, she said. They have rules, limits. They expect us to surrender when things get hard. But humans do not play by those rules. We fight until we win, or we make sure everyone loses. Over the next month, the pattern became clear. The Velkrin fleet moved to capture the human colony of New Harmony. When they arrived, the planet was empty. Every building was rigged with explosives. Every mine was collapsed. Every water source was poisoned. The planet detonated as they approached. They tried again at New Boston. Same result, empty cities. Total destruction. Nothing left but wasteland, then New Chicago, New Toronto, New Mumbai. World after world turned into ash and poison. The Velkrin military command could not understand it. Every war they had ever fought followed the same pattern. Two sides fought. One side lost. The losing side surrendered. Both sides went home. Resources and territory changed hands. Everyone knew the rules, but humans were different. They did not surrender. They destroyed everything. They followed no rules. Admiral Korvac sat in his command ship. He had aged 10 years and 2 months. His face was gaunt. His eyes were hollow. Another world destroyed, his second officer reported. New Berlin. Total loss. No survivors. No infrastructure. Nothing salvageable. Korvac closed his eyes. How many ships did we lose? He asked. 42, sir. The debris field was larger than expected. 42 ships. For nothing. Not even a single building captured. Just ruins and death. Korvac opened a communication channel to the Velkrin capital. Your Majesty, he said, we need to reconsider our strategy. Every world we take costs us more than we gain. We are losing ships, losing soldiers, gaining nothing. This is not a war. This is mutual destruction. The Emperor appeared on the screen. He looked angry. Are you suggesting we surrender? The Emperor demanded. I am suggesting we stop, Korvac said. Before this gets worse. Impossible. The Emperor shouted. We cannot show weakness. We must break them. Take their homeworld. Take Earth itself. Korvac felt cold fear in his chest. Your Majesty, he said slowly, if we attack Earth, they will defend it with everything they have. And if they lose, they will destroy it. They will detonate their entire planet rather than let us have it. The Emperor waved his hand dismissively. They are bluffing. No species would destroy their own homeworld. It is suicide. Korvac thought about New Perth, about New Harmony, about all the destroyed worlds. With respect, Your Majesty, he said, they are not bluffing. Meanwhile, human ships moved through space like ghosts. They did not fight major battles. They attacked supply lines. They destroyed fuel depots. They hit manufacturing facilities on undefended worlds. Every week, another Velkrin colony lost its power plant, or its water treatment facility, or its food storage. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that made the news. Just slow, steady destruction of the infrastructure that kept civilizations alive. The council members began to worry. This was not how wars worked. Wars were supposed to be clean, organized, limited. This was chaos. And slowly, quietly, other council members began to withdraw their support. The Thraxians pulled their ships back. Then the Zelnor. Then the Kraith. One by one, species decided this war was not worth the cost. The Velkrin Empire stood alone, and the humans were just getting started. The Velkrin people called them the Garden Worlds, 7 perfect planets scattered through their empire. Each one was a paradise. Blue skies, clean water, forests that stretched for thousands of miles. These were not just colonies. They were sacred places. The Velkrin had shaped these worlds over thousands of years. They had imported animals from 100 different planets. They had planted trees that took centuries to grow. Poets wrote about their beauty. Artists painted their landscapes. Children learned about them in school. On the third garden world, Velkara Prime, Lady Zirath walked through her family estate. She was old by Velkrin standards, nearly 400 years. She had lived on this world her entire life. Her great-great-grandchildren played in the garden behind her. The sky was perfect blue. The temperature was exactly comfortable. The flowers bloomed in colors that did not exist anywhere else in nature. She heard the news broadcast on her communication device. The war with humanity continues. Our forces have captured another human colony. As expected, the humans destroyed everything before retreating. Total casualties are minimal. Infrastructure damage is complete. Lady Zirath shook her head sadly. Such a waste. Such barbarism. The humans clearly did not understand civilization. That night, Lieutenant Marcus Webb sat in a small ship drifting in the darkness between stars. Around him were 19 other humans. They wore black armor. They carried no identification. Officially, they did not exist. Webb was 26 years old. He had grown up on New Perth. He remembered green fields and clean air. He remembered his little sister chasing butterflies. He remembered the day they evacuated, the day they destroyed their world. His sister was safe now, living on Earth, but his home was gone. Turned to ash and poison, Captain Rodriguez spoke quietly. Operation Ragnarok begins in 2 hours, she said. We are one of 30 teams. Each team targets a garden world. Our target is Velkara Prime. She pulled up a hologram. A beautiful planet, blue and green and perfect. This is not a military target, Rodriguez continued. There are no defenses, no soldiers, just civilians. But this world is important to them. It is cultural, sacred. Destroying it will hurt them more than losing 100 military bases. One of the soldiers raised his hand. Captain, are we evacuating the civilians first? Rodriguez was quiet for a moment. We will broadcast a warning, she said. We will give them 24 hours to evacuate. After that, we deploy the bioweapon. Anyone who stays will die with their world. The ship was silent. Every soldier understood what they were about to do. This was not defense. This was revenge. This was terror. But they also remembered their own worlds. They remembered watching their homes burn. They remembered the council demanding surrender. They remembered the Velkrin emperor laughing at their ambassador. Webb spoke quietly. They started this, he said. They came to our worlds. They demanded we give up everything we built. They chose war. The other soldiers nodded. They did not like what they were about to do. But they would do it anyway. 24 hours later, Lady Zirath received an emergency broadcast. A human face appeared on every screen on Velkara Prime. People of Velkara Prime, the human said. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Human Special Operations Command. You have 24 hours to evacuate this world. In 1 day, we will deploy a biological weapon designed specifically for Velkrin ecosystems. It will destroy all plant life. It will poison all water. It will make this world uninhabitable for 10,000 years. Lady Zirath stared at the screen in horror. This is not a military target, Rodriguez continued. We know that. But your emperor attacked our homes. He destroyed our worlds. Now you will know what that feels like. You have 24 hours. We recommend you evacuate. The screen went black. Chaos erupted across the planet. Some people did not believe it. Humans would not really do this. It was a bluff. Others began packing immediately. Panic spread through cities and towns. The Velkrin military sent ships. But they found nothing. The human strike teams were too small, too well hidden. They could not be detected until it was too late. 23 hours later, most of the population had evacuated. Millions fled to orbit, to other worlds, to anywhere that was not here, but some stayed. Lady Zirath stayed. She was too old to start over. This was her home. She had lived here for 400 years. She would die here if necessary. She sat in her garden and waited. At exactly the promised time, the bioweapon was deployed. Tiny machines, invisible to the naked eye. They spread through the atmosphere. They touched every leaf, every blade of grass, every drop of water. The effect was slow at first, Plants began to wilt. Water turned cloudy. The sky changed color slightly, then it accelerated. Within a week, every tree was dead. Every forest was gray and lifeless. The water was poison. The soil was contaminated. Animals died by the millions. Lady Sirath watched her garden die. The flowers turned brown. The grass became dust. The fish in her pond floated to the surface. She died 3 days later. Poison in the water. Poison in the air. She was not alone. Thousands of Velcrin who refused to evacuate died with their world. And it was not just Velcara Prime. All 7 garden worlds received the same warning. All 7 garden worlds were destroyed. 30 teams, 7 targets. Total success. The Velcrin people watched their sacred worlds die. They saw images from orbit. Paradise turned to wasteland. Forests turned to dust. Oceans turned to poison. Lieutenant Webb was captured 2 weeks later. His ship malfunctioned during extraction. The Velcrin military found him. They brought him to an interrogation facility. Admiral Korvax himself came to question him. Why? Korvax asked. His voice was not angry, just tired, confused. Those worlds were not military targets. They were cultural sites, sacred places. Why destroy them? Webb looked at him through the prison barrier. You came to New Perth, Webb said quietly. You demanded we give up our home, our world, the place where our children played. You said surrender or die. You thought we would just accept that. He paused. Now you know what that feels like, Webb continued. Your garden worlds are gone. Your sacred places are poison. Your paradise is ash. And this is just the beginning. We will burn every garden in the galaxy before we kneel to you. Korvax stared at him. This young human, this soldier who had helped destroy worlds. You are monsters, Korvax said. Webb activated his suicide pill before they could stop him. He died in seconds. His last words were simple. You started this. Across the Galactic Council, other species watched in horror. The Thraxians formally withdrew from the war. The Zelnor recalled their ships. The Kraith closed their borders. One by one, council members decided they wanted no part of this conflict. The Velcrin Empire was alone, and the humans were coming. The Velcrin Emperor stood in his throne room. He was alone except for Admiral Korvax. Both looked exhausted. Both looked old. How many worlds have we lost? The Emperor asked quietly. All 7 garden worlds, Korvax said, plus 12 industrial colonies, 23 agricultural worlds, 31 mining operations. The humans destroyed everything they touched. The Emperor closed his eyes. And how many human worlds have we captured? None, Your Majesty. Every human colony we approach is destroyed before we arrive. We capture nothing but ruins. The Emperor opened his eyes. They were filled with rage. Then we will attack Earth itself, he said. We will end this war. We will make them surrender. Korvax felt cold fear. Your Majesty, I must advise against this. If we attack Earth, they will destroy it. They have proven they would rather die than surrender. I do not care, the Emperor shouted. Assemble the Grand Fleet. Every ship we have. We will destroy the human homeworld and end this nightmare. Korvax bowed his head. As you command, Your Majesty. 3 weeks later, the largest military fleet in galactic history assembled. 10,000 Velcrin warships. Every vessel the Empire could spare. It took days just to organize them into formation. Admiral Korvax stood on the bridge of the flagship. He looked at the display showing thousands of ships. It should have made him feel powerful. Instead, he felt afraid. On Earth, Admiral Sarah Okonkwo watched the Velcrin fleet approach. Every sensor tracked them. Every military base was on alert. Everyone knew what was coming. She stood in the war room deep beneath Geneva. Around her, officers monitored displays. Everyone was quiet. Everyone was scared. 10,000 ships, her second officer said quietly. We have 200 in the solar system. This is impossible. Okonkwo smiled grimly. Then we do not fight them fairly, she said. Execute Operation Mars Gambit. For 6 months, humanity had been preparing. While the Velcrin destroyed colonies, human engineers worked in secret. They worked on Mars. Mars, the first human colony outside Earth. Humanity had lived there for 200 years. Millions called it home. It was a symbol of human achievement. And now it would become a weapon. Engineers had drilled into Olympus Mons, the largest volcano in the solar system. They planted fusion charges deep in its core. They installed antimatter bombs in the Valles Marineris Canyon system. They placed devices at every tectonic weak point. Mars had been evacuated. Every person, every animal, every valuable item. The planet was empty except for automated defenses and one final surprise. The entire planet was a bomb. The Velcrin fleet entered the solar system. They passed Jupiter, then the asteroid belt. They approached Mars. Korvax frowned as his sensors showed human ships retreating. The entire human fleet was pulling back toward Earth. They were abandoning Mars without a fight. "Admiral, the humans are withdrawing," his tactical officer reported. "Pursue them," Korvax ordered. "Do not let them escape." The fleet changed course, following the human ships, moving closer to Mars. The red planet sat peacefully in space, silent, waiting. When the Velcrin fleet was in optimal position, clustered together, chasing the human ships, Admiral Okonkwo gave the order, "Detonate Mars." She opened a broadcast channel. Every species in the galaxy would hear this. Every council member, every civilization. "This is Admiral Sarah Okonkwo of the Human Defense Fleet," she said. Her voice was calm, cold, final. "You came to our solar system. You threatened our homeworld. You demanded we surrender. This is our answer." She pressed a button. Mars exploded, not like the colonies. Those had been destroyed with conventional explosives and nuclear weapons. This was different. The fusion charges in Olympus Mons triggered a chain reaction through the entire planet. Antimatter bombs created tears in space itself. The tectonic devices shattered the planetary crust. Mars split apart, fragments the size of mountains, chunks of rock and metal accelerating in every direction. The energy release was astronomical. Like a star dying in fast motion, the Velcrin fleet had no chance. They were too close, too clustered together. The debris hit them like a shotgun blast at point-blank range. Ships died by the hundreds in the first seconds. Massive chunks of planetary debris punched through hulls like paper. Smaller fragments created clouds of shrapnel that shredded everything. Admiral Korvax watched his fleet die. He saw ships explode. He saw them torn apart. He saw them crushed by mountain-sized rocks traveling at incredible speeds. His own ship was hit. The bridge lost pressure. Half his crew died instantly. Emergency systems kicked in, barely. Through failing displays, he saw the death toll. 98%, 9,800 ships destroyed. In less than 5 minutes, the 200 ships that survived were crippled, damaged, barely functioning. And now human ships emerged from behind Earth. Fresh, undamaged, ready to finish the job. Moon-based weapons opened fire. Missiles launched. Energy beams cut through space. The survivors died quickly. Admiral Korvax's ship was among the last to fall. As his life support failed, as his ship broke apart, he heard Admiral Okonkwo's final broadcast. "We sacrificed one of our first colonies to destroy you," Okonkwo said. "Mars was our second home. We lived there for 200 years. We loved it, and we destroyed it to stop you." She paused. When she spoke again, her voice was hard as steel. "That is what we are willing to lose to win. Think about that. Ask yourselves what we would do to our enemies. Ask yourselves if you want to find out." Admiral Korvax died in the cold vacuum of space. His last thought was simple, clear. We should have listened. We should have stopped. We should have left them alone. Across the galaxy, every species watched in horror. The humans had destroyed an entire planet. Their own planet. Just to win a battle, the Galactic Council met an emergency session. The Velcrin Emperor was not present. He had locked himself in his chambers. He would not speak. Would not eat. He stared at images of Mars exploding and said nothing. The acting Velcrin representative stood before the council. "We surrender," she said simply. "We request immediate peace negotiations." No one argued. No one objected. They had seen enough. The neutral station floated in empty space. No weapons, no defenses, just a meeting place. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the main chamber. Ambassador Chen sat at the human table. Admiral Okonkwo sat beside her. Both women looked tired. The war had lasted 8 months. It felt like 8 years. Across from them, the Velcrin delegation sat in silence. No emperor. He had abdicated 3 days after Mars. His daughter ruled now. She was young, barely an adult by Velcrin standards. She looked scared. The mediator, a Thraxian diplomat named Vel, stood at the center of the chamber. "We are here to negotiate peace," Vel said. Her voice was soft but firm. "This war has cost both sides dearly. It is time to end it." The young Velkrin Empress stood. Her 4 hands shook slightly. "On behalf of the Velkrin Empire," she said, "I offer our unconditional surrender. We accept full responsibility for starting this war. We ask only for mercy." Chen stood slowly. "We do not want your surrender," she said. "We want recognition. Recognition of human territory. Recognition of human sovereignty. And assurance that this will never happen again." The Empress nodded quickly. "Agreed. All human colonies are recognized as sovereign territory. The Council will grant humanity full membership status, and we will establish a new law. No species may initiate conflict with humanity without unanimous Council approval." One of the other Council members stood, a representative from the Zelnor species. "With respect," he said carefully, "we must understand what happened. We need to know why humans fight the way they do, so this never happens again." Admiral Okonkwo stood. She walked to the center of the chamber. "I can explain," she said. "Dr. Amara Ose is here. She is a xenopsychologist. She has studied both human and alien psychology for 30 years. She can help you understand." A small woman with dark skin and gray hair stepped forward. Dr. Ose looked at the assembled delegates. "The fundamental misunderstanding," Dr. Ose began, "is about the nature of war itself. For most species in the Council, war is an economic calculation. You fight until the cost exceeds the benefit. Then you surrender. You follow rules. You limit casualties. War is a game with winners and losers." She paused. "Humans do not see war that way," she continued. "For us, war is existential. We fight like our entire species will die if we lose, because in our history that was often true." The delegates looked confused. Dr. Ose pulled up a hologram. It showed Earth. "Earth is a death world," she said. "Everything on our planet tried to kill us: predators, disease, weather, other humans. We survived by being more ruthless than anything else." The hologram changed. It showed human history: wars, conflicts, genocides. "We have fought wars for thousands of years," Dr. Ose said. "Wars where entire civilizations were destroyed, where cities were burned, where populations were killed. We learned that surrender could mean extinction. So we learned to never surrender." A council member interrupted. "But surely you evolved past that. You reached space. You achieved peace among your own kind." Dr. Ose shook her head. "We achieved peace through mutually assured destruction," she said. "We created weapons that could destroy our entire planet. We pointed them at each other. We said, if you attack me, we both die. And it worked. But the principle remained. If we cannot win, we make sure everyone loses." The chamber was silent. Species that had never experienced total war struggled to understand. "When the Velkrin demanded our surrender," Dr. Ose continued, "you triggered our survival instinct. You threatened our homes, our children, our future. You left us with 2 choices: surrender and lose everything, or fight with everything we had." She looked directly at the Velkrin Empress. "You thought we would follow your rules," Dr. Ose said. "You thought we would surrender at 15% casualties. You thought we would accept defeat gracefully. But we do not know how to accept defeat. We only know how to win or die trying." The Empress spoke quietly. "We made a terrible mistake," she said. "We judged you by our standards. We thought you were like us. We were wrong." Dr. Ose nodded. "Yes, and that is the lesson. Humans do not fight wars to capture territory or gain resources. We fight wars to teach lessons. Our lesson was simple. Leave us alone, or we will make sure nobody wins." She sat down. The chamber remained silent for several minutes. Finally, Ambassador Chen stood. "We did not want this war," she said. "We tried to find peace. But when you forced us to fight, we fought the only way we know how. Completely. Totally. Without mercy." She looked around the chamber at all the species represented. "We hope you have learned from this," Chen said. "We hope you understand now. Humanity wants peace. We want to trade with you. Learn from you. Share the galaxy with you. But if you threaten us, if you attack our homes, we will burn everything to the ground before we surrender." The treaty was signed 3 hours later. Human territory was recognized and expanded. Humanity received a full voting seat on the Galactic Council. A new law was passed prohibiting unprovoked aggression against humanity. But the real change was not written in any treaty. It was in the eyes of the council members. It was in the way they looked at humans now. With fear, with respect, with the understanding that some species do not follow the rules. 20 years later, a young Velcrin student sat in a classroom. Her teacher, an old woman who had lived through the war, taught history. "Teacher," the student asked, "my grandfather was Admiral Korvax. He died in the war with humanity. Why did we fight them? What did we hope to gain?" The old teacher looked at her student sadly. "We fought them because we did not understand them," she said. "We thought they were weak. We thought they would follow our rules. We thought war was a game we could win." She pulled up images from the war. Destroyed worlds. The explosion of Mars, the faces of soldiers on both sides. "But humans do not play games," the teacher continued. "They do not fight to win territory. They fight to teach lessons, and their lesson was brutal. They destroyed their own worlds rather than surrender them. They sacrificed Mars, one of their first colonies, just to destroy our fleet." The student looked confused, but why? Why not just surrender? Why choose mutual destruction? The teacher smiled sadly. "Because to humans there are things worse than death," she said. "Losing their freedom, losing their homes, losing their dignity. They would rather die free than live in chains. They would rather see everything burn than accept defeat." She paused. "That is the lesson your grandfather learned too late." The teacher said, "That is the lesson the galaxy learned. Never threaten humanity, because they will not surrender. They will not negotiate. They will not follow the rules. They will simply make sure everyone loses." The student was quiet for a moment. "Are humans still dangerous?" she asked. The teacher nodded. "Yes, but now we know that. Now we respect them. Now we leave them alone, and they are good neighbors as long as you do not threaten them." On Earth, workers continued the long project of rebuilding Mars. It would take centuries, but humans were patient. They had time. In her office in Geneva, now retired Admiral Okonkwo looked at images of Mars before and after. She thought about the cost of war. The price of victory they had won. They had taught the galaxy a lesson. But the victory tasted like ash. Ambassador Chen, also retired, sat beside her. Both old women now. Both tired from years of service. "Do you think it was worth it?" Chen asked quietly. Okonkwo was quiet for a long time. "We survived," she said finally. "We kept our freedom. We taught them to leave us alone." "Was it worth Mars? Worth the garden worlds? Worth all the destruction?" She looked at her friend. "I do not know," Okonkwo said. "But I know this. If we had to do it again, we would. Because that is who we are. We do not surrender. We do not accept defeat. We burn everything rather than lose." Chen nodded slowly. Outside, humanity continued to expand, building new colonies, making new friends, trading with other species, living in peace. But every species in the galaxy knew. Every council member remembered. Every child learned in school. Never threaten humanity. Because they do not fight wars to win. They fight wars to teach lessons, and their lesson is always the same. Leave us alone, or we will burn everything.